I have been getting, particularly having been in the market myself and getting ready to start a new job, having people reach out to me and seeing how other recruiters and talent acquisition professionals are reaching out uh, made me feel good about sharing this again, because I'm seeing a lot of good things and a lot of improvement from over the last while. But I'm also seeing things that can continue to improve, so that we as an entire community can continue to do better and level up our candidate outreach. I'm a huge video game fan. I've been playing lots of games over my years. So I had to use a Mario one up mushroom for this. We're leveling up. We're one upping what we have been doing. For those of you that are watching live, my chat is over here on my other monitor. So if I'm looking off to the side, that's what I'm looking at is my chat. Otherwise, I will be looking right here so that I can engage presentation and be making eye contact with you virtually. Okay, here we go. So here's our roadmap. We're going to start with the importance of passive talent. We'll throw a couple stats out there that probably aren't new or shocking to anybody viewing this, but are going to be important to lay the foundation for why we're talking about candidate outreach. Then we'll go to the outreach bracket in honor of March Madness. I'm also a big sports fan, so I don't love basketball, but we'll pay homage to March Madness for what it is, and we're going to do our own outreach bracket. We'll move to inclusive outreach and what that looks like in today's environment. Then we'll move on to automation tools to help with this, and then we'll talk about what's next. So that's our rough roadmap. I anticipate today going about 45 minutes, so we can have time for questions and answers, and hopefully I don't take too much of your time. So we'll game plan for that. So first, few stats to wrap your thoughts around. Why is candidate outreach so important? This is something that, while I was aware of, really kind of blew my mind reading it on paper, um, and comprehending what it was that I was looking at. If I'm working on filling a vacancy within my organization, do I want 30% of the talent to be coming into my organization, or do I want to be addressing 100%? Because as it stands right now, to make up 100% of the workforce, you've got about 70 that are passive. They'd be open to hearing a new opportunity, maybe, if it was the right opportunity for them. And then you've got 30% that are actively applying to jobs. That includes employed, unemployed, those that are actively putting in job applications. So really play with that number in your head. Do you want access to 30% of the job market, or do you want 100%? So reaching out to those passive candidates is really going to help your organization find top talent anyway, because the top talent is off the market in under 2 weeks in many situations. That's not always the case, and in particular right now with uh, there are a lot of really good, talented talent acquisition professionals that are not off the market and are still looking. So you're going to see scenarios where this doesn't play out exactly, but this is rough stats to keep in mind as you approach your talent acquisition uh, environment within your organization. So we've got some cool facts in our head. What do we do now? Let's bust out the instructions. We're going to talk about a couple different things that should help us take that knowledge that we have and turn it into something actionable. So here's our bracket. Caitlin is going to love this. The winner is it depends. But if we're looking at ways that we can talk about or engage talent, we're looking at LinkedIn, cold call, snail mail, and email. Were the four that came to my mind. There might be others. This is just what I was thinking. You could use other social media. Maybe we replace that with snail mail. But the point is that it's going to stay the same. Primarily, it's going to come down to LinkedIn and email. And when you ask which one is better, I, in typical Chris fashion, is going to say it depends. That is one of my favorite phrases, much to the frustration of many of those that work around me or with me, because I take a step back and I say, well, it depends. Let's look at the situation and possible scenarios. So we are going to look at the possible scenarios here, LinkedIn and email, and figure out what depends on, or your results are going to depend on what's best suited for you and your organization. So the great battle, this is the final. We're looking at the NCAA championship of LinkedIn versus email. We're looking at, I was just at the World Baseball Classic, not the championship game, which would have been awesome. But I was at Team Canada versus Team USA. We're looking at World Baseball Classic championship, Super Bowl, whatever you want to call it. This is what we're looking at here is your two top contenders of LinkedIn and email. So to start with LinkedIn, as much crap as we love to talk about LinkedIn, that it does have a lot of pros for what it does. It is a fantastic networking site. It is super important for what we do. There's functionalities that we're always going to wish were better, but here's a couple of pros for your candidate outreach occurring in LinkedIn. I thought the biggest one was in-mail notifications. When you're sending those in-mails or connection requests to the people you're reaching out to, that passive talent, you're getting notifications when they accept and are willing to talk. Even if they accept your connection request, but haven't responded, you'll get the notification of, hey, this person is now a connection, right? You can go in and you can follow up. You can see that they have seen and accepted at least the initial outreach. The other cool part about LinkedIn is that it's already connected to your search platform. If you're using LinkedIn Recruiter, Recruiter Lite, whatever version of LinkedIn you're using, as you're searching for people, you can just send them a message. You don't have to pull it off the platform. You can stay in one location. Second or third, I guess, is it's collaborative in nature. When you're working in projects, if you have more than one recruiter see, or you've got business licenses, whatever that might be, you're building projects for passive talent that you want to reach out to for your available roles. It's collaborative in nature. You don't have that with email. So it's or you can have that with email, but it's more intuitive for LinkedIn, and we'll dive into some of the different tools and resources available for both of these. And then last, right in line with the connected to the search platform, is you don't need to find contact information. That is a huge time piece if you are prioritizing email outreach, is that you are making sure that you have that contact information, whether it's their personal email, their phone number, whichever, their work email. You have to find that. It does not always just come with their LinkedIn profile, and sometimes it'll take some work. So not having to do that is a huge pro for LinkedIn. Couple of the cons, because there are some, you can be limited on in-mails or connection requests. I believe it's currently 100 connection requests if you don't have LinkedIn Recruiter. 100 connection requests that you're reaching out to your potential passive talent. In-mails cost money. Sending an email does not. Your email is already paid for. So looking at those, there's the con there. Second, it's a little harder to automate. Based on my experience from what I've seen, email is far more automatable, if that's a real word. We're going to pretend it is. So LinkedIn is a lot harder to automate, and a lot of that is because of the way that they've built up their software and their APIs. You can't interact with LinkedIn as freely as other softwares that you might be interacting with otherwise. And then last is problems with timeliness. This is a hard one. I sent a connection request. I did not have LinkedIn Recruiter at the time. So I sent a connection request. I was working on a device UI engineer role. This was back in August. And I sent a connection request to somebody who seemed to fit the role really well based on what his qualifications were on LinkedIn, the information provided there. I sent a connection request. We were approaching the end of our messaging campaign. Was curious if we were going to make it at that 20% guarantee we had. Wanted some insurance, so I started reaching out via LinkedIn. Sent their connection request. He accepted my connection request at the end of January, and said, "Yeah, I would love to hear more about this role." And this was during Wayne Tech days, and so it was former client that we weren't working with anymore. I didn't even know if the role was open. So the best I could do was send him on to my point of contact and say, "Hey, go talk with this person. This is who we were doing work for. Um, but here you go." And because it was a connection request, when he accepted it, it auto updated the timestamp that I had reached out to him that day. So you've got some wonkiness with LinkedIn in that regard, but definitely enough pros to keep you in mind that this could be a highly useful tool. Yes, Martel, you've had that happen as well. It's the worst. I feel so bad because they reach out and they're like, "Yeah, I would love to learn more," and I'm like, "Well, that was 6 months ago that we were working on this. That role might not be open anymore." Next, we're going to look at email pros and cons here. This one is huge. Uh, Pros: most everybody checks their emails, even their personal emails. Um, I recently did an email clearing, and this is probably going to sound atrocious to some people. I check my email, I promise. I went through and deleted my entire unread inbox, and it took me about a solid day because I had just shy of 50,000 unread emails. Uh, that being said, I check my email every day. I see what the emails are, where they're coming from, and the ones that are important, I'm opening, I'm responding, I'm saving, I'm doing what I need to, right? But I'm a pretty typical person in the sense that I see my email, I see what's there, whether it's spam, sales, whatever, and I don't open it. It's there, and I saw that it's there. Not everybody checks LinkedIn. If you think about what the platform is and who uses the platform the most, you're looking at HR, talent acquisition, sales, marketing. Those are the individuals that you're going to see use LinkedIn on a daily and weekly basis. Other individuals and other professions use LinkedIn when they feel like they need to, right? It might be once a week, it might be once a month, it might be once a quarter. You really don't know how often they're checking LinkedIn. So if you're sending in-mails and you're sending connection requests or messages to previous connections of yours, how quickly are they going to see that, right? As opposed to an email that, even if they're not opening every email and they have 50,000 backlogged in their unopened inbox, like myself, they're still checking their email. Second, controlled cadence. And cadence is going to be a big piece that we talk about later. But cadence is a really easily controlled facet of outreach in email, based on automation tools or yourself, as opposed to relying on an accepted request, or some clunky LinkedIn automations. Next is metrics accountability. Wayne Technologies, we used a software called Jumilius. This was a really good one that we could tag somebody in an email thread. They were not looped in, they were not CC'd, but then we were able to have our conversations if it was applicable. Which led to accountability on projects we were working on and allowed for messages to be seen without having to BCC someone, forward it to them, create monsters of email chains. Less limited. This is another big one with emails. I'm not limited on character counts for a first outreach. I'm not limited on links or images. I'm not limited on how often or how not often I send. These are huge pieces in favor of email outreaches. And then last, easier to automate. We'll get to that again, I promise. I'm not just saying that. We will get to the automation piece, and it is important to see that there are more robust tools based on my experience for email automation. There are cons though to using email. It can be slower. This is I mentioned this earlier. Finding contact information, leaving the platform of LinkedIn is time consuming. And so if you're reaching out to emails, personal emails, work emails, whichever that is, you are investing time pulling off of whatever platform you were sourcing on, whether that was LinkedIn, other, Sourcewell, or not Sourcewell, Seek Out, Hire Easy, whichever it is, you're still having to leave the platform to find or to send your outreach. The second big con that I have with email outreach is there's no read or accepted invite notification like there is on LinkedIn. A lot of these automation tools will look at and analyze how many clicks and opens you have, but it doesn't tell you who opened it or when they opened it or how long they spent in it. It just lets you know, oh, this is how many clicks or how many opens you've had. As opposed to someone, even if they just accept your message in LinkedIn and don't respond, I still got notified that they did that. So, that being said, I heavily favor email outreach over LinkedIn, given the pros and cons. And that's why I feel inclined to share some strategies for finding email addresses. I do want to make it very clear none of the softwares or texts that I am using here are sponsoring me, or I'm not in any of their pockets. These are just tools that I've used, and I want to share my experience and what has worked for me in the past. But email outreach has had the highest guaranteed success rate for me, as opposed to LinkedIn outreaches. So a couple strategies in finding email addresses. If you're an X-ray person like me, searching at gmail.com or resume or .pdf in your strings is going to pull up profiles that have those things. The other one I really like to use, and one of my favorite tools, particularly with X-ray, is using the rangefinder. And I love 400 dot 500 is my rangefinder, because then I'm looking at LinkedIn profiles with 400 to 500 plus connections. The likelihood of me being able to find their email addresses is a lot higher. And then last, you've got email finding tools. There are a lot of them here, and they all do different functions. So make sure, if you're looking at investing in a email finding tool, you're looking at what it's for. For example, Amazing Hiring is great for software tech roles. If I'm hiring sales agents, if I'm looking at marketing people, Amazing Hiring would be an absolute waste of my time. Um, but Zoom Info, on the other hand, is a great one if you're looking for salespeople. Particularly if you don't care if you have their work or personal email address, because you think about what happened, almost 3 years ago, right? The world shut down with COVID, and the migration to a digital virtual meeting place happened, and how many companies and platforms used Zoom. We love to skip the terms and conditions when, we'll click that accept and move on. Zoom has collected our info and they're willing to share it, right? So if you are paying into the Zoom info, how many people in their workplace use Zoom for a sales call, and now that information is saved, right? A couple other ones, Hire Easy and Seek Out are sourcing platforms that also have email finding integrations. They're not necessarily the most reliable or the cheapest, but they do both functions, right? And then Sourcewell is entirely just email, or Swordfish is entirely just email. Sourcewell is an email automation tool, as well as being able to find emails, right? So you've got all of these. Rocket Reach, and then Kendo is the bottom one, bottom right corner. All of these are tools that I personally have used and used regularly, and what would recommend looking into if you are moving into the email outreach avenue. All right, that was a lot. Take a big breath. Now what? We know what our options are, right? We've seen what the passive talent market is. We've seen what our options are for candidate outreach, some of the tools that we can use to find those email addresses and improve our outreach. What do we do now? The big one is going to be inclusiveness. You're, we've got it's our outreach time. Uh, that's all, folks. I'm joking, not the webinar, just the key components. There are three major components with your outreach: your inclusiveness, your subject line, and your cadence. I told you cadence was coming back, and I meant it. Every 2 business days is what I was operating on while working at Wayne Technologies, and that seemed to fit the bill really well. Um, every day, I had a couple campaigns that we sent every day, and I got responses of, "Hey, you've emailed me 5 times this week, and I haven't responded. That doesn't seem to make a lot of sense. I'm obviously not interested." The every other day gives people time to check their emails. Maybe they got an email, and they had in the middle of the day, they're waiting until they get home, whatever that is. But cadence is going to be huge. Every 2 business days is what I would recommend. Play with it though. Figure out what works best for you. Number 2 is the subject line. We're not going to dive into this like at all for the rest of this presentation, so I want to make sure I touch on it here. Uh, I have used and would recommend using the current company name for that individual. However, there are other individuals that have shared thoughts on this as well out in LinkedIn, such as using your DocuSign has been completed. People get really interested if something was signed. They don't remember signing. They open up the email, make a joke about it, like, ha, got you with the subject line. Now that you're here, let's talk about this. But using their company name is reliable because if you know where they're working, uh, and you're connecting on that, they can see that you're doing your homework. Also, using emojis tends to have a higher open rate than not. Um, so figure out what works for you, play with it, but the subject line is going to be an important facet as well. But the biggest and largest key component is going to be inclusiveness, and hope I would assume this is why everyone is here that came. But in case you're not, we're not talking about DE and I. We're not. It's not diversity, equity and inclusion. What we're looking at is something bigger than that. It would be really hard to draft messages that appeal to your protected classes, your underrepresented minorities, things like that, and encapsulate all of that. Instead, we're going to dive into personalities. This is the DISC personality assessment. This is something that Caitlin and I used at Wayne Technologies and was incredibly effective. Because the one thing you have, whether you're part of a protected class or not, whether you fall within a diversity silo or not, we all have personalities. Surprise! I have quite the personality. I like to think. Um, but the DISC personality assessment is one that has been and I've been able to reliably use, um, because everybody fits within one quadrant here, and so you can set your cadence of 4 emails every 2 business days, right? Or 1 email every 2 business days for a total of 4 emails. And now you've sent an email targeting each of these individual personality types, and you were appealing to them as a person, and you are becoming inclusive in your outreach. So this is a kind of a novel idea. I haven't seen a lot of this, and kudos is due where it's due. And so Mike Cohen, Batman, is the one that really put this together for the Wayne Technologies team, and I loved it. The moment I was learning about this, a year and a half ago, I was like, "This is genius. Why aren't more people talking about this? That you can be inclusive with something that everybody has." So we're going to dive into some examples of what these messages look like. I have screenshots of my actual campaigns that I sent. I used a client that I was doing a rendering engineer for back in October, and I achieved a 26% response rate. And I'm going to show you the messages that I used to get there and the order that I sent them in. Um, but this is what we're going to dive into to be inclusive. So the first is going to be your D. This is your dominance personality type. These are people that really like those power words and are results driven. So your email is going to look something like this. Again, feel free to tweak it, do whatever you want, play with it, right? But you can see in the top, let's see if my mouse, I don't know if my mouse is going to appear on the screen or not, but in the top left, you can see company in brackets. All this happened in Sourcewell. We'll talk about the tools later. But the way I sent these messages is everywhere you see the blue, it was automating and filling in those with people from a spreadsheet that I was uploading, right? So we're going to use myself as an example. I'm starting with BECU. If you missed that news, surprise, I'm starting with BECU in about a week and a half. So company or subject line would be BECU. And I say, hey, Chris, LinkedIn says that you are at BECU. I know the market is crazy, so I thought I'd check and see if you were still there, right? We're looking for what's your role at here? What company are you working for? To improve or to do what? What is it that you're looking for this person to do? You're trying to get to the point and you're trying to really highlight the big things that this role is going to do. Use those power words, use the cool, sexy terms to describe what this person is doing, right? You look at words like cross-platform, real-time, really cool things that this person would get to do. I also really like to try and link an article in that first email that is going to highlight something about the company that is going to fit for this dominance, highly motivated, results-driven person, right? So in this email in particular, you're seeing, hey, 5 nominations at the 2022 Hammers Awards. If you don't know what that is, that's fine. I didn't know what it was until I looked it up. But what I'm using here is illustrating. We had 5 nominations at this function. Here's what we do. This is we as a company, and I hyperlinked the company right to their landing page to talk about what they do. Hyperlinked the 2022 Hammer Awards right to that website so that they could click on it. They could see, right? And I'm really trying to grab at that, that leader, dominance, and results driven person. They don't respond to this, that's fine, right? We need diversity in our teams, and beyond DE and I diversity, we need personality diversity. So if they don't respond to this, no sweat. This is just what I lead with. Next would be S. We're looking at the steadiness and supportive role. Again, we're going to use me as an example. Hi, Chris. How's your Thursday going? I hope I'm not breaking your flow at BECU. Did you get a chance to read the article I sent, right? Where I'm engaging, trying to have natural conversation. I'm a person, they're a person. Treat each other like people, right? And then you're going to see I highlighted a couple things. This was coming straight off of the company website. Y'all are sourcers. I redacted who the client was. If you wanted to go and look it up, here's your phrases to go and look up. But looking at things that people are going to care about, right? They're looking for steadiness and support. So average tenure. Oh, I guess I didn't redact it there. There you go. It's Vectorworks. I missed one. But average tenure, 8.5 years. For someone that's looking for steadiness in their career, that's going to be huge. You're looking at average tenure of employees, right? Other things that people are going to want to look at, looking for supportive, prioritize inclusion, collaboration, balance, and innovation. We're looking at people who are supporting each other to guarantee that our employees and customers are celebrated for their abilities and who they are as individuals, right? Message 2, very different approach than message number 1. Again, we're targeting a different personality type. So we're trying to highlight a lot of these people that might want to come to the company for what the company is. Think about message 1 is trying to find people that want to come to the role for what the role is. Maybe they stick around, maybe they don't. But the big thing is that you're grabbing their attention and you're saying, hey, let's have a conversation. Next, you're looking for the high I or the influence personality type. These are the people that are funny. This is where I fall because I'm hysterical. If you've ever met me, I drop dad jokes constantly to the point that I get quotas put on me for how many dad jokes I'm allowed to say. That was a big thing at work for a long time, not to mention also at home for a little bit. So look at the people who are really easygoing. They like to be part of a culture that they uplift others. Things are funny, right? So here we go. This is what your message might look like for a high I, somebody who enjoys that. We're looking at custom memes. Again, we're going to dive into the tools, but if you can see the white text there on the screen, it says, imagine first name Chris as a rendering engineer with redacted Vectorworks that I already mentioned. I'm trying to create a meme. It's personalized. This is automated, so every single person receiving this is getting their own first name with it. But what I'm trying to do is engage in something that is funny. Try using memes or pictures or pop culture references that are widely known, or widely known within your industry space. And this is going to help you engage people in a way that you've broken the ice now. People don't have to worry about that awkward first conversation. You're like, oh, okay, this person's funny. They're willing to laugh and joke and have fun at work. Like, I would be open to having a conversation because maybe my current environment isn't like that. Um, and so your email again might look something like this: of just, hey, I made a custom meme for you. We have this role that's open. I've already pinged you about it. I would love to just have a chat. If you don't want to chat about the role, at least let me know that you got a chuckle out of the meme. Again, we're looking at response rates. We're not looking at introductions. So if people aren't interested in the role, I still want to know why. Have them respond. Even if it's, hey, I'm not interested. I'm really happy at my job, but I did really like the meme. I now know that person's happy at their job. Um, right? That's actionable market data. I know that people within the space are happy. Maybe they respond. They say, "Hey, I'm working on a big project. Let's touch base in 3 to 6 months." Well, then I know that right now is not the time for them to be making a move, but I can put them in my ATS with a flag to follow up in 3 to 6 months if I have something similar available. So that's the point of getting responses as opposed to introductions. But the point is that we're engaging the passive talent and we're really making sure we have access to 100% of the available talent as opposed to just the 30% that is applying. Last message in the disc personality assessment is C, and this is for the short, concise, to the point individuals. These are individuals that like short bursts of information. They don't like to have long, drawn out conversations. They're really just trying to get what they need out of that conversation and move on. Um, th- these are typically really great individual contributors on a team, and so think about in your environment if you're reaching out somebody who gets the work done. Uh, they might fall here, but real short and simple. Hey Chris, just want to follow up on the rendering engineer role I emailed you about on Tuesday. Does role working on, and then I linked another article here, seem interesting to you? Let me know either way. Real short. The idea is that I want to engage them. I want to see that I'm being respectful of their time. If they haven't responded to me at this point, it's okay. We have one more. The last one that I try to do is a picture of my dog. The the idea here is that your final message, send a fifth email, right? So you've sent a high D, a high S, a high I, and a high C message. Your last one is just a bid for connection. Really, without begging them, you're really just saying, "Hey, I'm looking to connect with you as a human, regardless of however these messages may have been received. I just want to connect with you, a human, human to human here. So get creative, share something personal. This is a show that you're a person and genuinely reaching out. I know that's hard for a lot of people outside of talent acquisition to believe that we are people and genuinely care about people. So if they're not interested in the role, that's fine. We've got plugs in so many different ears that we can pass things along if it's the right fit. So I like to send a picture of my dog. People like animals. You know, go for whatever is going to be a connection for you. The dog method is what we used at Wayne Technologies, was really useful. But we've also used custom memes that were personal bids for attention. I reached out to somebody at Nintendo that on their banner they had Kirby. So I made a meme all about Kirby just for this individual and was like, hey, I would love to connect, right? It does not have to be a picture of your animals. This is just something that I've done that has worked really well. Um, so just something to consider. Let's see, Martel. Oh yes, when people don't love to make a decision real quickly, yeah, giving them time, having the right cadence is super important for making sure that they don't feel rushed. An email every day. and targeting each one of these is going to feel very overwhelming. So you span it out over about 2 weeks if you're going every other business day with 5 messages, and give them plenty of time to digest and figure out, hey, is this something I even want to have a conversation with? Great comment there, Martel. Okay, I promised it's here. Automation tools. Here's a couple different tools for you to keep in mind if you're looking for automation. Samantha, great question. Well, I'm going to touch on that before I move on to this. So, what do you use to make the personalized memes? That function lives within Sourcewell, which is here in our automation tools. Others do not have that same level of functionality. And so, if you are using like Interstellar, for example, or I just started looking in the higher suite. I have not touched that. I saw Robin Choi post about it and was like, hey, this looks really cool. That's connected with like Chat GPT and some AI assisted drafting for your messages. Something I'll look into was an automation tool I saw, I'm aware of, wanted to make sure it was included here. But Sourcewell has the custom meme format that is definitely usable. Interstellar probably has something similar. That was not one I used as frequently. I mainly lived in Sourcewell. But yeah, great question. Using memes and then really just pulling a blank template for your memes and putting it together. If you're not automating it, is something that you can do too. If you know what style of meme you want to look at or to share, just go look for a blank, Leonardo DiCaprio meme of the one where he's holding the cigarette and he's pointing, right? You pull it, put your own text in Word, whatever, group the image, save it, and then you can send it away. So if you're not personalizing it, not putting their first name in it, that's fine. But you can create your own memes that way. There's that to think of. As for automation tools, LinkedIn, the automation tools that I have exposure to with LinkedIn is Sourcewell and Closely. Closely was the one that I found more effective. I automated my connection requests and emails, and then I was able to schedule follow-ups if they accepted. Was a little clunky, took some time. It takes some ramp up, especially as you start to use it. They don't want your account to get flagged as spammy on LinkedIn, so it's a little slow, and that's okay. Sourcewell has a similar integration where you send a message to their LinkedIn. It does not have as great a follow up as Closely, but it is there. As for email automation tools, Sourcewell is my favorite. It was the one I have the most exposure to, and was robust. I was able to schedule my messages. I could have all 5 messages in a template loaded, drop the information and forget about it. It would send all my emails for me, and as people responded, it would pop back up in my inbox. Interstellar works the exact same way. Again, I just had more exposure with Sourcewell, and then Higher Suite is a new tool that I think is worth looking into. I personally will be looking into it, and if you're interested in chatting about that, let me know. So here's the end. What do we do now? Our recruiters don't have time, right? Your organization does not have time for your recruiters to be diving into DISC personality assessments and reaching out to, passive talent and investing all that time. They already have a full workload. What do? Invest in sourcing. Here's another wild stat for you. On average, recruiters will spend approximately 13 hours a week on just sourcing candidates for a single role. Doesn't mean they're doing it effectively, but approximately a third of a recruiter's week is finding people for a role. That's not having the conversations, it's not employer marketing, that's not engaging people in the pipeline. Third of the week is just identifying people to reach out to and reaching out to them. So if you can split the sourcing function, you're increasing outreach and engagement of the talent pipeline. I asked the question a couple days ago when sharing the link for the webinar here. Where's the handoff between a sourcer and a recruiter? Doesn't matter. Figure it out. But if you have a sourcer and a recruiter that are working on this and you're splitting that function, your recruiters don't have to spend nearly as much time finding the people and can do a lot more of the engagement with the candidates, keeping them keeping them warm. I hate the term, but if you're engaging your candidates as you're walking through the interview process and increasing or enhancing their experience, the candidate experience, you're going to have a better experience overall with them and with future candidates, because word gets around who is a good company to interview with and who's not. Um, Increase your outreach effectiveness if your sourcers are finding the people for your recruiters to talk to or reaching out to them initially themselves. It's all up in the air there where the handoff is, but the point is if you split the function, even if it's hiring a recruiting coordinator that does recruiting coordinating and sourcing on the side, or a full-time sourcer, just don't ever call them a junior recruiter, please, because sourcers and junior recruiters do not equal each other. They're not the same thing. If somebody were to tell me that I was a junior recruiter, I would be offended. I am a sourcer, and that's what I want to do. I do not enjoy phone screenings and the interview process. I love looking at the data, and that's what I do. So something to keep in mind there. You, that's what's next, right? If we're going back to the roadmap, this is the end. You've got all this information. You really want to level up your candidate outreach, and you're worried about the time. There you go. Invest in sourcing. You've got all this information. You've got the resources. You've got the manpower. Now you have a template to follow. I will make sure all of this is available publicly. If you want slides, just message me. But this is what's next. I had the opportunity to be featured on a podcast. Man, it's been almost a year. But it was a lot of fun. I was talking with Maddie Collins, and was asked the question of, where do I see sourcing going? And genuinely, if your organization does not have a sourcing function, you're falling behind, because sourcing is coming to the forefront as a viable career, and we need to be making pushes there. I know there's a lot of talent acquisition people out there that have sourcing experience, have recruiting experience. Talk to them, figure out what their preference is, and split your function. But that's it. We're 1 minute shy of 45 minutes, so my pacing was pretty all right. Does anyone have any additional questions? We've had a few questions there. And thank you guys for coming. I know it was kind of a last minute. I threw it together Friday night at 10 p.m. So thanks for coming. But Terry, thank you. Caitlin, it was good to see you in the chat. It looks like you're still here. My wife and I were talking about driving down to Savannah. So we might have to ping you and see if you want to meet up in the middle for lunch sometime. But when will I have an expert X-ray webinar? Oh, that's a good question, Martel. I got to think about what an expert X-ray webinar would look like. Since I've done beginner and advanced. I don't know. Maybe we'll make that the goal for April. Jen, thank you. All right. Yes, Caitlin. I'll shoot you a text whenever we make that happen. We realized that Savannah is a lot closer to us than I thought it was, and is like the perfect distance between you and I. So yeah, yes. Cool. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. It doesn't look like we have any questions, so I will give you all 15 minutes of your time back. Thank you for coming to the webinar. And as soon as all of this is processed, I will share it on my LinkedIn. I don't have a fancy tool to email it out yet, since I have not started my new job. So make sure you're following me on LinkedIn, and I will be sure to tag the registrants and those that attended today in that post. But be on the lookout for that, and I'll see you all next time.